Hello and welcome back to TVBinges.com Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group podcast. I'm Kyle Tremblay, the editor of TVBinges.com, and I am joined as always by a fellow TV Binges writer. She's trying to stock the shelves while I'm racing through the parking lot in a cart. It's Olivia Richards. Hello.
Hey, we're back.
We are back. Yeah, the pilots now are not coming fast and furious. They're coming at a trickle, but we have gotten another one. It is NBC's newest workplace comedy, which did not technically premiere this week, but it previewed, and it's called Superstore. Olivia, what did you think?
I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to. I went into this with a lot of fear because we've watched a lot of really bad comedies, and it's kind of given me a little bit of PTSD.
Sure.
But this wasn't as awful as I thought it could have been. It wasn't amazing, but it didn't make me turn it off in 5 minutes.
Right. Now, so you went into this one with low expectations because of how bad the other comedies have been exclusively, or was there something about the concept of Superstore, which is sort of a workplace comedy set in a Walmart that's not actually a Walmart? Was there something about that you, as a retail veteran, feared?
Well, I think it was a combination of just all the things that we've watched that just haven't worked. But then on top of it, just reading the premise, I was like, either they're going to do something really fresh and original with this as as in The Office, which really nothing can top The Office. Like that stands on its own. Or it's going to be really bland and the jokes are going to be extremely broad and it's going to be another, comedy that just isn't really a comedy. It's just sort of like fast jokes that aren't really funny and people doing weird things for 30 minutes.
Right. No, I agree with your assessment, and I think you brought up the show that is the comp here, which is The Office. NBC workplace comedy, single cam, about a boring job that people try to make more exciting, and it's centered around a couple in which one of the members is sort of more down to earth and grounded, which I think in this case would be America Ferrera's character, and then Ben Feldman's character is the more sort of he's still like a grounded person, but a little bit more I don't know, creative, aggressive kind of. And so, yeah, we have virtually the exact same setup as The Office. Having said that, and I agree with you that I didn't hate it. Like, this comedy isn't so bad that we're, laughing at it instead of with it.
Right.
We've seen a number of those. But, we each watched the first 2 episodes, the ones that premiered on NBC, and this show, I think, has the problem that a number of other comedies have had, including ones that went on to be great. Parks and Rec had this problem, which is that it doesn't understand what's funny about it. It has a capable lead, or 2 capable leads in Ben Feldman and America Ferrera. It has a setting, it has a bunch of wacky side characters, and it has no idea why it's funny. And it has no idea what the comedic tone is. It doesn't know where it's mining the comedy from. It just has these characters, it has these actors, and it's sort of going out there and winging it. And so you get scenes like the in the pilot, the one where he marks down all the prices, and there's a mad rush for the exit as people try to get 25-cent electronics, and there's there's a scene of what's America Ferrera's character's name?
Amy.
What was it?
Amy.
There's Amy fighting the woman trying to put the electronics in her SUV, and it's okay, well that's a certain kind of comedy. That's if you're gonna do that kind of comedy, then you're, I think, a very different show than what this wants to be, which is more like The Office, which is a show that's more about observational comedy and can certainly hit those big broad notes, but not as a feature. I mean, this is both episodes prominently featured a white rapper,
Yes,
which I think is probably your number one sign that you've gone down the wrong path as a comedy. Like you in your attempts to be funny, you've probably took a wrong turn in the maze. Like if your comedy in two episodes, your first two episodes relies heavily on the presence of a sort of goofy white rapper character, then things have gone wrong for you. And I think that is probably the number one sign that the show isn't quite ready to be a good show, but I think that if they recalibrate it a bit, there might be some pieces there.
No, I completely agree with that. And actually, I think it was the review of the show done for The Hollywood Reporter, but they actually compared it to the first season of Community, which Community, like when you first kind of watch it, it hadn't found its tone yet, and it had all these great characters, but like the show didn't quite know what to do with them and didn't know like quite which tone they wanted to go for with the jokes. And like, as the series progressed, like it kind of found itself, and they really kind of, found kind of a rhythm that worked. But I feel like that's kind of what's happening with this show, of like it has these great characters. They are great like character dynamics. The writing is okay. The jokes, obviously what you just mentioned with the white rapper, they kind of throw things in there that kind of don't really work, but there's enough there that if they kind of were able to focus in and find a direction, they could have something.
Yeah, Community's an interesting one, because I do think that some of these jokes were kind of trending in that direction, the sort of broader jokes. Not that Community was a broad show, but Community was very like idiosyncratic and very weird, and when it settled in, it became a show that definitely had its own rhythms. And I could see Superstore going in that direction, or again, it could go the Office direction where it's much more buttoned down. But when they have something like at the end of the pilot where it's a big romantic moment, where on his very first day, Ben Feldman has decorated the ceiling of the Walmart, or Cloud 9 or whatever, it's a Walmart, has decorated the ceiling of the Walmart with like glow-in-the-dark stars, as a way to impress his immediate supervisor, Amy. Which is like, first of all, it took The Office, 24 episodes and 2 full seasons for an equivalent moment to happen. Like, Casino Night was that moment for The Office. It happens, it happens 15 minutes into this pilot. So, you've, if you're gonna be a show like The Office, you can't do that. You have to pace it a little bit better. And I think that that's one of the reasons that The Office was so unique. And, of course, this is largely credited to the British original, which is that it really took its time with that relationship and really had a sort of friendship that was burgeoning on romance. Whereas here, it's immediately clear that there's a romantic component to their relationship. And it's not like a case of, will they or won't they. It's like, there's not that strong case there. And so it's, I don't know, I think the show is, in both the humor, the writing, and the plotting, was very impatient in this pilot and tried to throw a little bit too much at the wall. And I think that maybe if it does get like a second season, or is still filming episodes, it could maybe recalibrate a bit and make itself slower paced. Or again, commit to the sort of more Community-style manic pacing where you've got, if it has like a weird vision like that. But one or the other. I don't think that this version of the show that was these 2 episodes really is going to work creatively or otherwise.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I just, there's parts of it that I am hoping for something, but I think definitely what you said, where it just kind of felt like they're just putting everything out there, but I'm like, no one is going to be interested if you're literally kind of spoon feeding everyone, like, okay, this is the main couple,
right?
This is what's going to happen, like they're going to get together, like obviously you're just waiting, but you're not going to wait that long, like why are we interested then?
Right, yeah. And I want to talk about the actors a bit and the performances, because there is a lot to like here. What did you think of Ben Feldman in this role? Because Ben Feldman is of course, my old friend from Mad Men, Michael Ginsberg.
Yes.
And your old friend, and our old friend from A to Z. He played the male lead in that. Here he is in another show about a couple. What do you think of him in this show?
I kind of like him because his character is, he kind of walks in and kind of almost has like a holier than thou attitude where he's like, why am I here? Like, here's where you guys are, like, like here down below, and here's where I am, like, what am I doing? But he doesn't play it off in a way that you, like, hate him for it. Like, obviously he goes in and, like, he is blending with the rest of the cast, and he doesn't come off as, like, smarmy or, like, obnoxious in that, like, he kind of thinks that he's better. It just sort of plays off as, like, naive and, he just kind of is standing out a little bit before, like, he's able to, like, kind of find his bearings. And I really like kind of what he's bringing to that role.
Yeah, I like him. I like him as a performer. Smarmy is the perfect word. I think that he, as a performer, sort of exudes smarm. And I think he would be better served... Like he's an interesting romantic comedy lead. Because I don't think he's inherently likable. I think that he is a better villain, as he was sort of on Mad Men. He's a good, like, morally gray villain. I don't know if I really want him to be my romantic comedy lead if the show is asking me to like him. And I certainly like him as a performer, but I just mean that character is like you said, a little holier than thou, and he's clearly well-intentioned. And he's clearly meant to be, like you said, a guy who's coming in and has bigger ideas than his station would dictate, and maybe needs to be reined in a bit. But I don't know if he's the right actor for that. Like, I don't know if what they're asking him to do is what his strength is. Like, I don't know if that character is exactly what I would think of a Ben Feldman character to be. And I had the same problem with A to Z. And I think that he's either again, I like his chemistry with America Ferrera, and I wouldn't say he's miscast, but I think that they're missing something about that character that sort of would help me connect with him. Like, and I don't know what it is, but maybe he needs to be weirder. Maybe he needs to be, maybe they just need to do a little bit more to establish that he's supposed to be smarmy and not a sort of typical romantic lead. Like, I don't know, that character didn't quite click for me the same way that America Ferrera's Amy did, which I thought was probably the strongest element, at least main element, of these two episodes.
Absolutely. Well, actually, I mean, her knowing that she was going to be on the show was kind of the main reason that I really wanted to check it out, because I'm a huge fan of her and everything that she does, from movies to television, even like her brief kind of walk-on role in The Good Wife. She just brings something different to each role. And I think that there is just something that, she's able to do with this show where, she's kind of like the down-to-earth one, and like where everyone else might be like flying off the handle and giving us, I guess, like reined in amounts of crazy. Like, she's the one that you can count on to kind of like hold down the fort while everything else is going like insane.
Oh, yeah. She's the sort of rock at the center of this whole thing. She is definitely the, grounded character. And I think that she's really good in that. In these two episodes, she is excellent and has great chemistry with everyone. And for a show that has a lot of wacky side characters, I think that she, again, like, the structure here is supposed to be The Office, where you have Dwight, and you have Creed, and you have Stanley. you have a bunch of, like, wacky caricatures, but then you have these two very real people at the center of it. And that's what makes everything work. Like, the Office would have just been like a forgettable, wacky comedy if it wasn't for Jim and Pam. And that's what this is. And I think that again, rushing that relationship is doing it no favors. And I think that the show needs to take that relationship a little bit more seriously, the way The Office did, instead of having the big star on the roof scene 15 minutes in. Like, they need to treat that like it's a real thing, because that was the genius of The Office, is that it was a show that was a very slow-burning romance that happened to have comedic elements. And I think that if Superstore tries to just be a sort of wacky comedy that has a romance in the background, it's going to feel too light. Like it's just going to feel like insignificant. And I think that again, like the way I envision this show, if it ever ends up working, is as that kind of The Office style show, a show about a relationship that has a lot of wacky elements around the fringes of that relationship, and that's where the comedy comes from. But I don't know if you feel the same way, or if you see another way forward for the show or anything like that.
I think we're on the complete same page, because like the biggest thing that I noticed was, the chemistry between A, the two actors, and B, the dynamic between these two characters. But, what we were saying before, I was a little disheartened when it was just sort of like, okay, here it is. And like The Office is one of my all-time favorite shows, and like, just waiting and waiting and waiting for Jim and Pam to finally get together, when it's like you can feel, your heart just stopping each time, like they're closer and closer and closer, and they either, pull you away from that, and then like when they finally get you to that point, it's like all the more worth it. But then when, again, they're just giving it to you when it's like, oh, okay, like here, they're just together, like they're gonna be together, because obviously they're the two like main people on the show. It's kind of annoying.
Right, well, and they're not behaving like humans. We don't need any of the side characters to behave like humans. They can behave like sitcom joke machines. Mark McKinney's boss character can be just the biggest airhead joke machine in the world. And I particularly enjoyed Colton Dunn as Garrett, the guy in charge of the PA system.
Yeah.
He was delightful in his few appearances on Parks and Rec as Brett, the animal control guy. And here he is bringing that exact same energy, and it is absolutely completely enjoyable. Like, all of that is great, but the two real people have to be your two main characters. Like, those two have to be real people who do real people things and who don't behave like sitcom joke machines, or else the show doesn't feel like it matters. And I think that's what this show needs to overcome and figure out, is like it needs to treat those two characters with respect. And then the other characters can do whatever you want. They can marry the white rapper. They can do whatever. They can stage a fake robbery of the store that results in like a YouTube, whatever. You could do whatever stupid stuff you want, but the main relationship has to be taken seriously, and that it wasn't here, which was ultimately why I probably am going to come in negatively for this show. Spoiler alert. But
Surprise.
So this show, Superstore, did a 2.2 rating in the demo with 8 million viewers, which is a very solid debut, although it should be noted that it premiered immediately following The Voice. But the second half hour, because this premiered 2 episodes, the second half hour only lost 0.1 in the demo, which is really good. It means that people who watched the first hour watched the second hour. So again, we'll see how this does without The Voice to help it when it actually premieres in January. But certainly good numbers, promising numbers for for a show that I think NBC probably feels pretty good about. So Olivia, do you think Superstore will be canceled quickly, make it through the season, or renewed for next season?
I think that, it's probably going to make it through the season, and fingers crossed, I kind of do want to see it make it to another season. Yeah,
I do too. I think it's definitely going to get through the season. Again, we'll see how it premieres when it actually does, but it's a show that I could see working. Like, there are pieces here that can work, there's a premise here that can work. They don't know how the pieces fit yet, which is exactly what I would have said about Parks and Rec in its first season. So again, there's certainly upside here, and I'm gonna be optimistic with you and say that it gets a second season. All right, so final verdict, Olivia, thumbs up or thumbs down on Superstore?
I think despite all of, kind of the minor flaws and things that it's still kind of getting settled with, I think for me this is a thumbs up.
Yeah, and I totally get that, and if I wasn't so cynical and mean, I would give it a thumbs up as well.
One of us has to be.
I feel like in the net, in the aggregate, a sort of split vote is probably the right vote on this show. Like, if you're going back through our podcast years from now, as I'm sure many people will be doing,
obviously,
this is a good one for us to split on, because I don't think these episodes were very good. I don't think they were very good half hours of TV, but they put enough out there to where I think this show might be pretty good at some point if it figures it out. But of course, that's a crapshoot. We don't know. And so I'm going to judge it based on what I saw, and what I saw wasn't a very good comedy that had a lot of issues with understanding why it's funny. And so I'm going to give it a thumbs down, but not an enthusiastic thumbs down, and a thumbs down that could very easily be turned 180 degrees. So
Yay.
yes. All right. So you've been listening to the Pilot Roundtable, a TVBinges.com and Southgate Media Group production. You can listen to all of our episodes on iTunes, where you can rate and review us. We'd appreciate that. Or find us at southgatemediagroup.com. Follow Olivia on Twitter at RichardsOlivia, and me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV. Until next time.